Cup of the Word. Today we start the longest, the largest, arguably the most beautiful and most intricate of all the Psalms. We start Psalm 119, and today we're going to cover the first 40 verses of that. Psalm 119 is a psalm that is dedicated to one topic, which is God's divine laws, God's commandments, His teachings, His statutes. It uses all these different words to talk about the Bible, God's Word, and how perfect it is. It takes it like a diamond and looks at it from every different facet. And it's an alphabetical psalm in that every stanza starts with a different letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So it starts with the very first letter of the Hebrew alphabet and then goes through 22 different stanzas. There's 22 different letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and ends with the last letter in the Hebrew alphabet. And each stanza kind of has a little facet all to itself. It's just a little subject matter and look at a particular aspect of the law. So today we'll look at the first 5 letters of the alphabet that are shown in the first 40 verses. So the first 8 verses look at the first letter. And this deals with the fact that the law is best understood when it's not viewed as purely an academic pursuit. You know, we all know people who have a lot of book knowledge, but not a lot of street smarts. There's such a huge difference between somebody who knows what's right and then somebody who goes out and applies it. And that's where the beauty of God's law comes in, is it's not just some theoretical physicist view of how the universe works. It's God saying, no, go take this stuff and walk in it and live in it and apply it, and you will find that that's where the beauty is where the rubber meets the road, when you are actually doing what I've told you to do. And then from verse 9 through verse 16, you get the second letter. And this subject deals with the fact that as you look at life, the most difficult and scary time of life, when we see people stumble the most and have the most problems, is in their youth. In the earliest years of people's life, the teenage years, the young adult years, however you want to look at it, those are the years where people make mistakes that have catastrophic impact on the rest of their life. How many young people die or have their lives totally altered because they make poor decisions in their younger years? And that's where the beauty of the law shines. God's teachings and His commandments make it so that somebody can make it through those hardest, most traumatic years of life, the years of youth, and come through it not only unscathed, but shining and glorifying and honorable. That's how somebody's life can be a joy in the younger years, and not just a time where we just hope they survive it. So that's the kind of a second aspect. Then we get to the third stanza, which goes from verse 17 through verse 24. And this particular stanza, we look at and we say, as we look at the law, one of its great strengths is that it gives us hope. And it gets us to think outside of the day-to-day living of right now. It gets us thinking about more than just the groceries and the bills and the errands and all these sorts of things. And it gets us thinking about heaven, about what happens when we die. And the psalmist says that one of the things is that it actually in the end almost makes you homesick for heaven, which is kind of an amazing thing to think about. You've never been there, and yet you long for it, knowing that it's your home. That comes from God's law, from immersing ourselves in His teachings. And then you go from verse 25 through verse 32, you get the fourth letter of the alphabet there. And this letter looks at how the law is designed in such a way that it can get us through the trials of life. The darkest, most difficult, and most painful times in life are the times where we need to go to God's commandments, because they will give us the strength for those dark days. They'll get us through the hours of need, through the hours of grief, through the hours of fear and turmoil and uncertainty. And then we look at the fifth letter of the alphabet, which goes from verse 33 through verse 40. And this is a cry for help. This says, the psalmist says, I would like to have a heart. God, please make me somebody who longs for your word. Make me somebody who wants it, who has a desire to immerse myself in it. Because as long as it's just on the page, just like the first stanza says, that the power is in the doing, it has to go into our mind so that we can then apply it. So God, make me somebody who hungers to put it into my mind, who hungers to put it into my heart, so that I can have an enlarged heart that's strong enough for the griefs and the trials of life, so that I can have the joy of making it through youth and not just surviving it, so that I can be somebody who isn't just academically looking at the Bible, but is really applying it and seeing the jewels and the beauty of what you've intended for the life that you gave me to be like. So this last letter says, God, with all the good that the law does, make me want it. Make me somebody who longs for it and has a heart that yearns for your truth. That's your daily cup. That's the first section of Psalm 119, and we'll see you tomorrow.